This week's podcast is an interview with Giulio Mazzoleni, the author of the Madonna Songbook, an in-depth look into Madonna's songwriting craft from her beginnings in the late 1970s right up until her latest output. Now, it contains exclusive interviews, information about released and unreleased tracks, and is beautifully illustrated.
It's always been about identity. So and relatability. She really likes the idea of a song becoming the listener's, not hers. She has a taste for provocation and she knows what works, but at the same time, it comes spontaneously to her. I found a great connection with Carpenter. They would often mention in the studio, let's do this like the Carpenters. Let's do it like Carpenter with this sinuous and melodic terms that are extremely emotional. Like in interviews, she would go like, this song is about breaking up. Have you ever had a breakup? Sometimes she crosses the border and it's just Madonna, like Beach and Madonna. But no, Beach and Madonna is about partying. You don't know who I am. It's about being fabulously arrogant.
So don't go away. This is an interview about a book for Madonna fans who are in awe of her musical talent. First, though, please follow the podcast and become a member, which helps me continue to bring these interviews. And don't forget to check out the myriad of other interviews on my channel and on my website. Giulio Mazzoleni, welcome. Now, you're here because you're the author of the Madonna Songbook, and it's a song-by-song journey across 45 years of music history of Madonna, of course. But I want to first of all say congratulations, because not only is it beautiful, it's also in-depth and full of valuable insights that I think will surprise and, a lot of people, even people that, have some knowledge of Madonna, let's say. And it feels like for you, it's a lifetime's work. And it sort of highlights Madonna's strengths that are maybe not always recognized. But before we get to the book, I want to talk about you at first, your background and sort of your connection to Madonna. So when did you first hear a Madonna track and what was it?
I can't remember if it was Into the Groove or Dress You Up, but it was the fall of 1985. And a schoolmate of mine named Sarah, who I'm going to see next week, because I told her she's in the book's intro, was charming me with her attitude and her ways. I was 12, and she was already developed and quite sexy, if I should say, compared to the other childish schoolmates of ours. And she was very provocative, and she knew her thing. And I was extremely charmed by her, like Madonna, and she was a big Duran Duran fan. And I love that she had an idol. She had someone to look up to. I've always been, all my life, I always look for someone to admire. And it's so hard, as Madonna says, to find someone to admire nowadays. But as a teenager, I asked her. I was like, genuinely going like, who should I follow? If you like Duran Duran, I'm into their music, but I don't like them the way they look. Who should I follow? And she said, I have the girl for you. And she flipped a teenager magazine and she showed me Madonna. And then she told me, go look on music television and then listen to the radio and you'll find out. And that's how I got to know Madonna.
So what did Madonna mean to you as a young person? Because I'm older than you, and sort of my first idol was Bowie. And Bowie for me represented a place where I could belong as being a young gay kid. Now, Madonna, of course, has always supported gay rights, and that has meant so much for our community. So I just wondered if that was also part of it.
I would say not from the beginning, because I was totally unconscious. I don't think I had a sexual identity at 12. And also, because in the beginning, Madonna seemed to be more like about fun. It's incredible because probably like you with Bowie, we grow up as a generation, and sometimes the artist we follow grows at the same time, and we follow. And in the beginning, I thought it was just, she's much fun. and great image. And I thought, but I remember when I saw the Dress You Up video, this I definitely remember going like, okay, what Sarah was telling me was good because she is good. I thought she was good at what she was doing. In that live video of hers from the Virgin Tour, she showcased her stage charisma. And I saw that. And I've always been hungry for things like that. So that was the first thing. But growing up, say 5 years later, she started going into gay rights and giving visibility to homosexuals in mainstream entertainment, like the movie Truth or Dare and all of the other things. And that was at the same time where I was getting, I was getting signals from my own body and my mind. So that came along at the same time. But over time, she did become an important hero for me.
She was not only an important hero for you, but you've also had a professional connection to her.
That came later.
Can you
So
tell me about this now?
Chapters. It's like chapters of my life. First, it was the fun, the entertainment, someone to sponsor myself at school, going like, you should like Madonna, she's very good, and presenting her records to my friends. And then, which meant getting my own identity through someone else. I would be identified as the Madonna fan, just like Sarah was the Duran Duran fan. Then she became a hero. And then later on, because I worked at Universal and I always dreamt to be in the entertainment industry as a kid, and I made my dream come true. I worked in a major for 15 years. Then I became an independent manager. And I thought I'll never work with Madonna because she was a Warner artist and I was at Universal, but her big centennial contract with Warner expired. She signed with Live Nation and they licensed to Universal, which obviously meant the project in Italy, where I'm based, would fall onto my desk because nobody could ever touch Madonna besides me in the company. They knew not to dare. Also, I was specialized. I had the diva office, as they said, because I promoted and did marketing for Sheryl Crow, Bjork, Gwen Stefani, all the pop ladies, and George Michael. All the pop ladies would come to my desk, and yeah, I got to meet her. And in the beginning, I didn't want to. Which, by the way, it's funny because before that, I had become a friend of Liz Rosenberg, Madonna's longtime publicist, because she was my professional idol, just like Madonna was my life idol. And we had become friends in London at the Stevie Wonder presentation. She came, and then we exchanged tickets for concerts, and we became friends. And one day, Liz Rosenberg called me and said, Madonna has decided to do interviews in Italy as you requested. So she will do it next week, put things together for her. And I was like, I was with my mother, and I was going, no, I don't want to meet her. I don't want this to happen. She was like, why? You've been talking about this all your life. And I didn't want the myth to come down from the poster in my teenage bedroom. But when she stepped into the room, my professional drive was such as that I went like, hi, nice to meet you, you're late. I completely switched drive, and it was great. And she appreciated I was not neither kissing up to her ass nor being afraid, which is something she hates.
It's really amazing because you mentioned three things where I have extreme similarities. There was no one at MTV that I was going to allow to interview Madonna. That was
True,
the first
you were
thing.
always, you were the MTV news man. And I have to say, I'm honored to be on this podcast because of my passion for Madonna. Would be taping MTV when it wasn't even accessible in Italy through satellite dishes and friends and people. I would get cassettes, and I kept watching day and night MTV, and I learned English through you and your peers and your colleagues because I would watch hours and hours, and my teachers were impressed with my English and they couldn't understand why, but I would stay up at night and watch all these tapes.
Well, thank you for that. I mean, the second thing you said is when you have an idol and you meet your idol, you just don't want to be disappointed. And that's something that you mentioned. That's something that I had about Bowie, and I also had that about Madonna because I was a huge Madonna fan. So for me, that was also something that I was concerned about. And you mentioned this thing about you telling her, hey, you're late. And in a sense, I had the same thing because at the end of one of the interviews that I did with Madonna, she asked me if I wanted to visit her in LA. And I said, why? We're not friends. And after that point, she was, the next time I met her, she was incredibly warm and friendly to me because I just said what was truth for me, and I think she respected that. Nowadays, I look back and think, you absolute effing idiot. There you go. Okay, let's get to the book, because it is a fantastic book, as I said. And first of all, want to know what inspired you really to write the Madonna Songbook, this specific book.
Prince. I bought 2 years ago for Christmas, my own gift to myself was a book about Prince's songs. It's called Old Songs, and I loved it. I'm a big Prince fan as well, and I got this book, and I thought, wow, this is fantastic. And halfway through flipping this chronological order book about all of his songs, actually the released ones, because we know that with the under-released material with Prince, it's just like going into the closet of Narnia, crossing through a world. But whereas mine has also a lot of unreleased stuff. I was like, I really enjoy this. And at the same time, I was looking around my collection and stuff and said, why isn't there a Madonna book about this? And I'll tell you what, I looked at the back of the book and I saw that the same writer had written a book similar to that about Bowie and I think Queen or Elton John, 3 of them. And I saw the direction. I said, they're never going to make one about Madonna because she's a woman, first of all. And because of the way Madonna has always been perceived as pop music or a marketing product, which really annoys me since 1985. I said, we should have a book like that. And although there are little guides about Madonna songs, really small pocket books, there's nothing in depth about that. And I was speaking to my friend, Matthew Rathenmund, who's a big pop culture historian and wrote the book Encyclopedia Madonica, who's very expert about these things. And we've been friends since 1991. We were pen pals at the time. He's based in New York. And he was like, well, it's true. There should be a book about that. And you should write it. And I was like, me? I said, yeah, you have the knowledge. Go ahead and do it. So I was really inspired. It was the Christmas holiday. I started putting down notes and an idea. And then I thought, I will make a nice own project. I will make it for my computer. And then I thought, no, we'll print it for some fans and I will distribute it. And then I found a publisher and it became bigger and bigger. And now it's coming out, but it became a lot of work for 2 years.
Well, that's what I want to talk about, because there must have been immense challenges in getting information and particularly getting access to material that's unreleased and all the rare stuff.
In a way, yes and no, because what I did when they asked me how much research did you do, it's that I started writing right away. I decided to sample a chapter. I did the True Blue chapter because I thought it was easy for me. It was very clear. I was actually digging my own knowledge and background from all these years. So I was just putting together things. So it meant for me searching into my own archive or looking things up to find the quote. So to have the right footnote to be documental about things, not just say, I remember Madonna once said. I did say on Rolling Stone, and then you have the footnote. You have a specific research work at which seemed easy for me. It's just that what I didn't understand was that there would be 18 chapters like True Blue in that book. And I never wanted to go down, to start shrinking things up and making things differently. So I treated every album, every era with the same amount of work. And then I started doing interviews. And in the beginning, not many people were listening to me, but then I found some producers who agreed, some musicians, and the list went on. And the word of mouth was passing from one another. It took me months to convince Stephen Bray to speak to me. And he said, I'll give you 40 minutes. And in the end, I had to interrupt the conversation after 2 hours 45 because I was done with information I needed. And I was thrilled with that. And at the end, it was like, I know you've asked Rick Knowles to do this, and he's uncertain. I will tell him to write to you. So it was a word of mouth. And Doug Wimbish, who played bass on a Madonna record, but he's a great musician with Living Color, and also did a lot of Annie Lennox albums, like that amazing song, Precious. That bass line is immense. He answered all my questions. Then you have to speak to Andre Betts. I'll give you his number. And he made me speak to Andre Betts. So it was beautiful. And it was an incredible amount of work. And then I went to Washington to the Congress, to the Library of Congress, where they keep deposit of how people used to register music, deposit them for copyright. And you would be able to listen to the cassettes that they sent. And sometimes you would find demos. And I found 3 songs people never heard of. So I'm very happy.
This page is taken from the Madonna Like a Virgin album chapter. And here we're looking at the song Dress You Up, produced by Nile Rodgers. As Giulio writes in this chapter, the song was only added when the album was about to be recorded. It was originally titled Gonna Dress You Up in My Love. Now, Madonna liked the song so much that months before it got released, she performed it at Keith Haring's birthday party at Paradise Garage in New York on May the 16th, 1984. Later, it was remixed by Jelly Bean for its release. I mean, you mentioned the fact that it was difficult at first to get interviews, and you went from Stephen Bray to other people because he understood where you were coming from. Madonna is surrounded by a lot of people who are incredibly loyal because they understand her work ethic and they understand how she operates, and they don't want to give information that maybe just gossip or whatever. There's a lot of people who want to give proper information and don't want to be the person that unearthed something they shouldn't unearth or said something they shouldn't have said about Madonna. So I find it really interesting that you managed to go down that rabbit hole in the right way. What surprises for you personally, because you obviously know so much about Madonna, what surprises in terms of her work ethic and in terms of how she produces and writes did you unearth?
The thing that, especially these interviews, made me discover, because like you said, I approached people explaining that I wasn't looking for gossip or celebrity stuff. The truth is that I realized after finishing the chapter about I'm Breathless, the album from the Dick Tracy movie, I realized I had finished it without ever mentioning that Madonna was in a relationship with Warren Beatty at the time. So I really separated things. Then I did put it in the song where they have a duet. But they appreciated this thing. And so they revealed to me things that are just exquisitely professional. And everybody was very specific about telling me how intuitious she is, how spontaneous she is, which is exactly the opposite of what a lot of naysayers have been saying about Madonna. She's just a marketing product. She fabricates this thing to provoke these other things. She has a taste for provocation and she knows what works, but at the same time, it comes spontaneously to her. Stephen Bray wrote an amazing preface saying that Madonna's music comes from an emotional place. So that's why a lot of people connect to her in this sense and her music. And for example, the interview with Tommy Martin, a brilliant guitarist who was the guitarist for Dallas Austin and all of the records he made with TLC and Usher and a lot of other people. He told me how Madonna was very simple, like sitting in the studio at the board with everybody else. They would plug in a guitar, put a beat, they started experimenting, and she would go like, you see she was conjuring things up and looking at her notebook where she had little bits of lyrics pre-written or some quotes. And then she would say, give me the microphone. And in the room, without going to the booth, in the middle of the whole situation, start singing the melody that you would find in the record in the end, like straight ahead. And everybody has said that, from Stephen Bray to Andrea Betts, to Demo Castellon most recently, who worked on MDNA and Rebel Heart. She's extremely spontaneous. It wasn't a complete revelation. People, diehard fans know, but it was great to document it and write it and say, this is fact, this is real. It's not just gossip.
What unique elements did you find out about her songwriting? Because one of the quotes that I saw was from Nikki Harris, and it was about and you just mentioned it really with what Stephen Bray said, that everything she writes means something to her, has a relevance in her own life. Otherwise, she couldn't write it. So tell me about that and what other unique elements you found out about her songwriting.
Yes, and Donna Delore said she doesn't sing anything that is contrived. And I think it is so. Even when she did, because back in the days it was really important in terms of success and marketing, movie soundtracks. You know, Madonna is famous for delivering singles that became huge movie soundtracks. Madonna called it assignment work because she would be told this, the mood has to be this. It's about this movie scene, it's about this message. And to her it was easy to put a song together. Like, this used to be my playground. She made it on the last day. She had time to write and record it. She made the demo right on the spot and then finished the production and re-recorded vocals, which is also quite unusual because Madonna tends to put on the album the original demo. Like a prayer, she only sang it once. So it's incredible. What is unique about her writing is, like I said, emotional, but also this melodic sense that is incredible. And I found a great connection with Karen Carpenter. There's an insert in the book about 2 pages where I sum up all the influences, and Stephen Bray has confirmed it. Nikki and Donna said it. They would often mention in the studio, let's do this like the Carpenters. Let's do it like Karen Carpenter with this sinuous and melodic turns that are extremely emotional. And it's so unique, but also it's also Madonna. It's not just making it like Karen Carpenter, but this similarity was really fun. A year ago, I was writing the book and I had just discovered more about the Carpenters because myself, here in Italy, they were not that famous besides They Long to Be Close to You or a few other songs. And I discovered their amazing Christmas album. So I was playing it all through the holidays. And we were making the Christmas tree. And my husband, who doesn't know much about music, was putting a decoration on the tree and turned around and said, "Why is this woman singing like Madonna?" And I said, "No, it's actually the opposite."
Oh, brilliant. Why do you think Madonna's music is important in the cultural landscape? Why is she so important?
For many reasons, mostly for the message, for what she has done and what the consequences of her music, which I'm very happy to talk about. But I want to stress again, because of the songs, the, the, the melodies that she's made with the right beats. She's amazing with a matching beat and melody. So first of all and foremost, it's the songs. This is why she's important. Those songs are still celebrated. And whenever they come up, even people who'd say, yeah, I'm not a big fan of Madonna, but oh yeah, I love Holiday. I love Like a Prayer. I love Vogue. So they're always like that. And secondly, it's because of the whole message. She's a performance artist, so everything comes as a package, the visuals, the communication, the message. And she's done a lot about love and unity and acceptance. She has worked, it was back in the days, it was not as explicit as everything is nowadays, but even in Vogue, she is about equality. It makes no difference if you're black or white, if you're a boy or a girl. And she was just like saying if you're gay or straight. But those weren't the days you would mention that. But at the same time, she was doing a lot. She was having men kiss in Truth or Dare and stuff like that. It's always been about identity. So and relatability. She really likes the idea of a song becoming the listeners, not hers. Like in interviews, she would go like, this song is about breaking up. Have you ever had a breakup? And she connects. She makes people, sometimes she crosses the border and it's just Madonna, like Beach and Madonna. But no, Beach and Madonna is about partying. You don't know who I am. It's about being fabulously arrogant. So you can relate to all of that, from the silliest to the most intimate. So relatability, emotion, and all the messages she's put in it.
And in this chapter, this page is taken from, Giulio writes about the Immaculate Collection album, which contained 2 new tracks, Justify My Love and Rescue Me. As the Italian songwriter, producer, and pianist Stardust notes, when Justify My Love was released, he was shocked by the song, the dry, minimal style, and Madonna's spoken, sensual voice. It was a prelude, as Stardust comments, to the style of Erotica. I think it's interesting for my generation, which, as I said, is a bit older than your generation. For my generation, she was the only person that really supported gay rights. And so the connection was so strong, and that generation has stayed incredibly loyal. Do you think that different generations later are connected in a slightly different way? Because I know musically, obviously connected, but it was also here is someone who stands up for us.
Yes, absolutely. I think every generation has their hero in that sense. I mean, look at Judy Garland being the first. And then probably it was Donna Summer. I don't know, there have been others and there will be others. And having worked in the industry and having seen a lot of new generations come, I remember, every now and then, because of marketing, because of my colleagues, it's the industry, people would label a new girl the new Madonna. It started happening probably with Kylie Minogue or Debbie Gibson,
Gwen
back in
Stefani, people
87.
like that, yeah.
Yeah, but already in 1987,
Yeah.
they started saying the new Madonna. Madonna was new on the scene. So, and I would be watching like, I don't see the new Madonna. It's not coming. But for instance, Lady Gaga has proven to be a very strong artist and successful with a great identity. She has a tendency of, I think she should have a side business in investing in the new generation of photocopying machines because she picks a lot of people's brains. But she's also unique and she's strong and she's a great advocate of gay rights now. And her generation of fans tend to think she's the one. Just like probably with Madonna, we thought she was the first. She was probably the first to be explicit, going on national American TV saying this country is homophobic. So in that sense, yes, she was the first. And also for sure in music, she was the first to fight against AIDS. In the movie industry, it was Elizabeth Taylor. In the music industry, there was no one like Madonna, literally putting herself into hospital wards when people thought it would be contagious just to walk around the same space.
I mean, the time that I first interviewed Madonna was, of course, around the time of Erotica.
Here,
And
one block away from where I live, at the Gallia
ah,
Hotel near the Central Station in Milan.
yeah, that's right. Okay, but the press coverage at that time was about outrage, and it was not about the actual work, and that's my personal favorite album, and I feel that it's underrated in terms of its songwriting because of how it was treated within the press. What do you think the most underrated album is of Madonna, and why?
Erotica for exactly the same reasons. And by the way, in terms of songwriting, you were right. You're right. And she did a lot more than she had done before because she chose to work with two very young DJs and musicians like Andre Betts, who had, before Justify My Love, had only done one single with Lenny Kravitz, and Shep Pettibone, which was the DJ of the moment of those 5 years. And he was the most requested remixer, but hadn't done production himself before Vogue. So she made a bet, and these people needed help in the recording studio to write songs, which is why, in terms of writing, it's way more personal than other albums because she did a lot there, a lot, not just lyrically and melodically, but also in terms of musical composition and production. And also the songs were incredible. I have learned that the original plan was to protect the album and have the book come out a few months later. And then things started rushing up, A, because she was delayed with the album, and B, because the publisher wanted to have the Christmas market or whatever. And so everything came together and it absolutely killed the album because the visuals, and Vogue magazine said it at the time, Madonna doesn't seem to be aware of how strong her image is. And she thinks the music will not be underrated, will not be forgotten or overlooked. And she was wrong. And the whole album suffered. And it's a great pity because it's an astonishing album.
Don't go away. There's more about the Madonna Songbook coming up, but just one more moment to ask you to like, subscribe, or become a member of this channel. It really helps me. Okay, back to the interview.
And the other one is definitely American Life, where she suffered the boycott about the start of the Iraq War, where she was against it or said or was perceived as being against it. And that sank the album right away. And it was an incredibly intense album. And they made the wrong choices with the singles. So they gave it a totally political meaning, whereas it was also very personal and romantic.
You mentioned the Carpenters as, or Karen Carpenter as one artist that has influenced the way Madonna sings and her melodies. In terms of other artists and in terms of music production and lyrics, who do you think Madonna has heavily influenced?
I think pretty much everyone in pop and dance as a female artist wise, because of the way of singing. I've worked for many years with Mika, the Anglo-Lebanese, American Lebanese artist, famous for Grace Kelly, Relax. And he's a great singer. And he told me, Madonna has this technique that I call the Madonna technique of not really singing. That means not to belt out things, not to be super technical, but to be more like cinematic in a way, which is like the difference between Evita in theater and Evita at the movies. It's more human, it's more real, it's less operatic. Excuse me. So she has this singing of being extremely precise and matter of fact, although she embellishes it with melodies and BVs. That has become a trademark. So from Gwen Stefani to even Kylie Minogue and everything, it's more about influencing the form, the female pop song form and shape. Say, for instance, most recently, Sabrina Carpenter. She sounds a lot like Gwen Stefani to me. And she has this thin voice that she chooses to do, which is quite unique or similar to other singers of her own generation. But at the same time, the whole package comes across. It's fascinating to me. She reminds me of Madonna during the Like a Virgin era. Cartoonesque she was around that.
You mentioned in terms of Erotica, because of the situation, she had to input more and therefore it became a much more personal album. Are there other points along this Madonna life where you can really see turning points in how she's worked and how she's operated? I mean, I think obviously Evita is one in terms of her voice, because her voice was trained in a slightly different way, wasn't it, for Evita? But I think there must be other points along the way which have come up. So could you tell me about some of those?
Sure. I would say the first was True Blue, because it was the first she was allowed to write and produce by herself. I mean, with her partners, but not be told what to do by another producer or picking other people's songs except one or two. The second definitely was Erotica, for the things we mentioned. The third chapter definitely is Evita, because incredibly Madonna trained her voice professionally after becoming the biggest star of the decade and not before. But because she kept that, she insisted. Christopher Ciccone, her brother, who recently passed away, may he rest in peace, said she refused to get trained because she didn't want to lose authenticity. I think she would have benefited it earlier, but at the same time, Evita gave her techniques and knowledge that she used, for instance, in a beautiful way in Ray of Light, without sounding too strict as the producers of Evita made her do. She developed her own style in a more mature way, and obviously with life, becoming a mother and discovering all these exoteric studies, she made an incredible step forward with Ray of Light, which also became important by discovering William Orbit. I mean, starting to work with him, he brought a good deal of coolness and new sounds. But it's important to me to say how Madonna was relevant in that record and not just the producer of the moment. And the third moment A big change was American Life, which I think is the moment where she completely did not care of the consequences of what she was going to say and sing and the way she was going to sound. She took a lot of liberties, which is makes it a very artist album. And then for sure, when she did MDNA, which somebody considered a very rushed album, she was very intimate about suffering her divorce, which is incredible because she made that album 3 years after divorcing Guy Ritchie. So she still had something in her guts to bring out.
In the Madam X chapter, Giulio writes that Madonna worked on solid collaborations instead of group writing that she had done on Rebel Heart. As Giulio says, when Guy Ozieri celebrated the 20th anniversary of Rare Light with an Instagram post, Madonna uncommonly intervened by commenting, "Can you help me now? Remember when I made records with other artists from beginning to end, I was allowed to be a visionary and not have to go to songwriting camps where no one can sit still for more than 15 minutes.
Madame X, her most recent studio album, which came out 4 years ago, it's about time she brings out something else, I hope, is extremely intimate. And again, she just doesn't care, and she just chose what to do. She went Portuguese, she went world music. She took a lot of liberties. She did make the single that would surely work in the charts with Maluma and Medellin, but the rest of the album is incredible in terms of like total artistic freedom, as if she was a totally unknown artist.
I mean, the thing about Madonna is because of her work ethic and the way she seems to approach what she's doing, and also that she knows well, maybe she doesn't know what she wants all the time. Jonas Åkerlund told me that sometimes in terms of a video, she will come to him and not actually know initially, but she always makes a decision at the end for her. That's what I really want to say. And in terms of that sort of work ethic, is there anything that you have personally taken from her that goes into the way that you work?
Oh yeah, a lot. I mean, her and, like I said, Liz Rosenberg, they were a great couple, a great team in terms of her image and publicity. So I took a lot from them in terms of my job. But in terms of ethic, definitely, I'm all my life I've been trying to be as good as her, as being there on the spot and know exactly what I want, what I would do. You know, the famous, what would Madonna do? And
she said that in an interview with me. I asked her a question and she said, "Oh, what would Madonna say?" And I always saw that as a protection. Do you know what I mean? It's like Madonna is a Kunstfigur, is a sort of invention, and she can hide behind the invention. Do you know what I mean? Which I think an artist that big has to have something that they hold personal to themselves and doesn't give out. They can't give out everything. It's a danger.
Exactly. True. She's very aware of that. In terms of my work, even with this one, is just not to give up when I thought, oh, this is too big. I'm not going to be able to make it happen. I worked on it till the very, very last day. I had to deliver it before going. I wanted to deliver it before getting married, and then I failed. And so I took 3 days off for our marriage. But then 3 weeks later, we would go on a honeymoon and go away for a month to Japan, and I had to deliver the book. At some point, I was staying up until 4:30 a.m. to finish proofreading the book so that I could deliver it. And that was, there was the Madonna angel on my shoulder going like, you have to finish this. You have to be constant about the quality of your work. You have to believe in it. Keep going. So even if it's not my nature, she's my idol in that sense. She's my guide.
I mean, this sort of keep going perspective. I mean, if you think of the celebration tour, which I think began in October on 2023, it was in London that it began, and it ended in Rio de Janeiro with a crowd of 1.6 million people at that free concert on Copacabana Beach. And it was an overwhelming success. And I'm not, well, I had the feeling, and of course I don't know, but I had the feeling that it even surprised Madonna in terms of what had happened just before with her being so ill and then managing to go on this tour where you could see at the start she wasn't 100% fit. And in the end, you know, she has the biggest success of her life.
Mercury.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's incredible because a lot of people would say, "Oh, this is a nostalgia tour. You know, it's she's over," and then she delivers the biggest concert of her life, or any solo artist ever should. So it's incredible. And at the same time, what I found out through this book as well is that she has been constantly surprised by her own career, although she has worked hard for it. There have been a lot of surprises for the good and the bad, but a lot of things she didn't plan to happen. It's again, it's not such a calculation. She just goes with it, which is why she has turned down great movies and done bad movies, or that she has insisted on putting out singles that were not meant to become hits and did not become hits, but she had her artistic statement to make. Yeah, the same goes with the tour last year. She is constantly inspired because she follows her instinct, and sometimes which sometimes doesn't necessarily follow the best marketing guidebook. And her management know how many times they fight. I mean, they argue over what to do and what not, and she decides to give up on opportunities, but she follows her own instinct.
Why haven't you interviewed Madonna? Because you know so much about Madonna, you know so much about what she's done. I think you'd make the best interviewer possible.
I've produced interviews for her, and it happened that the journalist was not as good as you and feared her, and she sensed it. Although she was very determined to making a great interview, he was not constant in his questions. He was desperate, and we had to take a break, and I had to brief him and give him clues about about questions to ask. So I almost got there with interviewing her, which by the end of the interview, she turned to me. I was sitting to her side and she was like, "Is that okay now?" So I've got that close. I did not dare asking her management. I'm in contact. I've been a good friend with Sarah Sambrino for many years. They know about the book. But I didn't ask. I wrote to her and said, "I'm making this book and I don't want to have anything from you. I want you to know I won't be asking anything because I can do it on my own and I'm very respectful of the artist." Having worked with big artists all my life, I know that artists tend to think that whatever is done about them is like ripping them off, or if not so violent, it is about taking something that belongs to them and making profit out of them. This is just a love project. I don't think I'm going to make such a big profit out of a book nowadays. It's a small project. But it's just love. And I did tell them, it's just a celebration of her talent and her uniqueness. So I respectfully kept the distance.
It does sort of, for me, bring up the question, though, in terms of that after you've done this book and you've interviewed all these people around Madonna, I just wondered if there was a question in your head that you would want to know from her that would sort of, you know, be the culmination of the book. Is there anything you would ask her?
Um, well, there would be many, but the one thing that I would ask her is more like a wish. I would like to be in the studio with her one day. I would like to see how she creates. And that would be the answer to all of my questions. I would really like to see how these things get together, which is why it was very entertaining for me to analyze the demos of the songs that have leaked through the years to see maybe the evolution of a song or how short the evolution of a song was, like a prayer, like I said. Whereas Erotica was a whole year, that song evolved so many times. It was 4 songs. That is extremely charming to me to see the artistic process. So my question would be, can I be in the studio one day with you?
Well, I hope that happens. I mean, I just want to say again, this book is amazing. Will you
Thank you.
actually build it as Madonna continues?
It is actually, it is built like that. And
No,
I
but I mean,
hope
if she
there's a new
brings out a
chapter.
new album, you can.
Yeah,
go into
absolutely.
that. Yeah.
I hope she delivers a new record soon, and I would be very happy to reprint the book with the 19th chapter to be added, because it's technically every chapter is an era of her career, and the most recent is open. So I can't wait for that to happen.
Well, Giulio Mazzoleni, the author of the Madonna Songbook, as I said, it's a brilliant book. I recommend everyone to buy it. It looks amazing, and there's so much amazing detail in it. So, congratulations on your work, and I hope you have a great success with it.
Thank you so much, Steve. And I need to say thanks to Anthony Coombs, who designed the book. Yeah, I think he did a brilliant job, and it's a great book to look at, even for myself who have written it.
Up there is an interview I recommend. Down there is where you can find all the podcast interviews. And here is where you can connect.